Hi there, welcome to all our viewers for this session. In this session, Prof. Hanss van der Kwast will be going through open education for QGIS, and we're excited to hear from him. Over to you, Hanss.
Thanks, Amy. Thank you, Cartosa team, for this opportunity to present to you about open education for QGIS. I'm Hanss van der Kwast. I work for IHE Delft Institute for Water Education, but more about that later. I think this is also a logical follow-up on the previous session about documentation, because now you might be wondering, yeah, okay, documentation, that's nice and great, but how do I really learn QGIS? And if I don't have resources, where can I find it? And the objective of this session is twofold: making people enthusiastic about sharing knowledge and courses. So I'm also addressing teachers, trainers, but also for users. I will give a tour on what is available for free on the net, not only made by me, but also by many others. And we will, I have a slide with the agenda. So first, a little introduction about myself, then about open education, what it is, and how does it fit a business model, because it's also important also for users to know how this works. And I will show the example of GIS education at IHE Delft. Then I'll give an overview of open educational resources on QGIS. There will be videos from people who contribute to GIS Open Courseware. We will do that first, those video clips after the overview. And then there will be a live interview with Jin Igarashi, who is also in this session. And I'm very happy to have him here as a contributor to many things in QGIS from Japan. So we'll have a good talk with him, and we'll take questions from the chat. You can post them at any time, but we'll discuss them also in that final part of this session. So as this day is about journeys of many people, some people at the beginning of their journey, maybe some of you are at the beginning of your journey, and some people like me a bit, well, you never know when it's halfway or, or where you are if the end is not visible, but I hope it's certainly not the end. But let me present you my journey so far. So I studied at Utrecht University in the Netherlands, and during my studies I learned the proprietary software, as most of us in those days. And after graduation in physical geography with a specialization in GIS and remote sensing, I became a junior lecturer in GIS, and still was commercial software. But during my PhD, short after that, together with Utrecht University and ITC, today Faculty of University of Twente in the Netherlands, I started learning more about applying open source in my research, and I learned Python for geospatial applications, and started using GDAL, learned about EPSG codes, and finding out more and more tools that are available for researchers. And then I started working for the Flemish Institute for Technological Research, VITO, in Belgium. And there was a vibrant atmosphere of young researchers who wanted to further go into open source tools for GIS and modeling. And there we helped each other by setting up a Python working group in the research institution. And we had a wiki, and we had regular meetings to share our knowledge with each other. And it was a very nice time to be exposed to open source, and also to start playing around with QGIS, for example. Then in 2012, I moved to IHE Delft, Institute for Water Education in the Netherlands, and I started to develop a curriculum for GIS, and I moved the whole curriculum to QGIS in 2013, and started with a few master's programs to teach it there. And that was also around the time that I established my YouTube channel, and that IHE Delft has its own Open Courseware website, not specifically for GIS, but still exists, ocw.un-ihe.org, where you can find all kinds of water-related open courses. Then in 2017 was my first experience with the QGIS community, a great experience. It was during the Hackfest in Nodebo in Denmark, where I met many of the people. Also, I met Tim and many others. And that's also when I started also contributing to QGIS in a more active way. And I'm part of the QGIS certification team. I do the reviews together with Kurt, and we follow up on people who want to do the certification. I'll mention it later in a bit more detail. And then Also, a bit later, the initial ideas for the book QGIS for hydrological applications started with Kurt Menke. And we published the book in 2019, but there are also ideas and developments on plugins that during contributor week meetings, like in A Coruña, that we developed further with help from a lot of other people active in the QGIS community. In 2019, so last year, there was a complete package of education materials available from my side, and that's of course great also to deal with that in another way with Open Courseware, which I will talk about. And we established the QGIS user group of the Netherlands, where I'm a board member. And yeah, unfortunately, there's COVID, and we didn't have many chances to meet like the QGIS community regularly meets. But as you also see with these kind of initiatives, there's a lot we can do online and meet each other and be active and keep on communicating and doing nice stuff. So in 2020, in October, I think I have it later on the slide with the exact date, I launched the GIS Open Courseware platform. I'm going to tell more about that later. So I work for IHE Delft. It's the largest education institute, postgraduate education institute on the theme of water in the world. Very international. We target mostly people from the global south. And besides our offerings in masters and short courses, we also have online courses, and we do tailor-made trainings and advice for companies and for governments. But we also do open education, and we find that very important. Here you see the happy graduates after the graduation before COVID. Now it looks more like this with mock-ups and digital fun on YouTube. So that also works if we use our creativity. And just to give you an impression on where our students come from and why open education is important and online education, this year with the new batch, we started a little experiment by using the Input app developed by Lutra Consulting to let students map themselves with a picture and answer a few funny questions. So we could use that in a live session to do a kind of bingo game that we did. And we presented them as water drops on a web map. And yeah, it used all the tools that are available for everybody also here in the session. So that was great fun, already exposing the new students to open source and QGIS. Now, the whole point of open, and that relates to all the open things, open access, open data, open source, open education, is about that we don't want to leave anyone behind, because things can be affordable for some people in some countries, but very difficult to reach from other locations. But also being part of communities is important. So we have in our e-learning vision at IHE that we want to, of course, increase the accessibility of our knowledge and education for our target audience in the global south. And classroom education is not always affordable for them. And also their backgrounds and their situations don't always allow to come to the Netherlands and to Delft. And we also see that the number of applicants exceeds the number of admitted students by a factor 4. So in the GIS classes, we can only accommodate very few of them. And then online and blended education can be an opportunity to lower the cost and to offer the flexibility of teaching. And people can do it at their own pace if it's a self-paced course that I now also have with Kurt Menke. And open education is then another step where people can even do it without necessary registration and follow it whenever they want. But it also has some disadvantages that I'm going to talk about. Now, if you want to do open education, then you need to think about a business model where it fits in. And that's the same. I learned a lot from open source. So last year in the Open Education Week, which, by the way, is next week, so this is a very timely presentation. This year's Open Education Week 2021 is next week. But last year, I gave a presentation about this reverse engineering of a business model. I'm going to show you a few highlights from that. Because, yeah, you might think, okay, giving away your courses, isn't that a bad thing to do? Because you also need to get a salary and live on. Well, there is... And of course, open source people, I don't have to explain how this works. And there are many similarities. So a few observations for my re-engineering of that business model. We provide tailor-made advice and training. And that's based by definition on the market needs. So organizations pay us to deliver courses that are based on market needs. And that gives us time and budget to develop new materials. And that means that is market ready and new stuff where you get paid for. And if you could agree with organizations that course material can be available for others too as open courseware, then you make an important step there. So it's an opportunity to innovate and be state of the art with your course materials. Very strange slide here about peanut butter, but I'll make sense out of this. So what can we learn from the corporate sector? Well, in the past in the Netherlands, we love our peanut butter. And we only have had in some decades ago only a few brands. But nowadays we find so many different types of peanut butter in the supermarkets. Organic peanut butter, double crunchy, and caramel sea salt is the big hype. And what we see is that if we add a little bit to the peanut butter, we can put a very fancy label on it and a different price. And if we add cheap other ingredients, we can ask a much higher price. So if we look at the corporate sector, everything is about adding value, the value chain. So you need to know the value chain of your products and services. And what can we learn from online services? If you look, for example, at software as a service or services like Dropbox that you see here in the example, we see that they offer basic functionality for free, which for many users is perfectly okay. But if you would like to have more, then you start paying a bit, and happy users will pay for that and get the additional features with it. So that's a kind of freemium business model, and there also the value chain is key. And what can we learn from open source like QGIS? The product QGIS has a lot of value, but has no direct monetary value. We don't sell the product, we don't sell licenses. But everybody around it earns money in some way with providing services around the product and to improve the product, or in even more indirect ways. So there are companies around it that can be hired by other companies to develop new features, and those features will then be available for many other people in the world. But also trainers can develop course materials and other services around this. So improvement doesn't mean here more money, but it means better software, increase the amount of users, and create a big community that makes this sustainable. So yeah, as being from an institute in Delft, where we have our Delft blue tiles, I thought let's put a statement here, my conclusion on this tile, and many educators wouldn't like this conclusion, is basically your education material doesn't have any value, not monetary at least. But what does have value is you, and that's the good news. We sell the experience. So we don't sell the materials, we sell the experience that comes with it. So if I look at GIS offerings, for example, at IHE Delft, and the open courseware and open educational resources are available for free, and many people can use that. But some people find it easier to have a book. So then they pay a bit for the book, QGIS for hydrological applications, for example, and they use that on their own. But some people need some guidance, but don't have the money to come to IHE Delft. And basically the same materials are in an online course where we can provide some guidance through a forum or organize live streaming sessions to help you out, but also completely self-paced to make it cheaper. And then, yeah, much less people can afford to come to Delft to follow face-to-face class with me and Kurt, for example. But then you have the real Delft experience. You're in Netherlands, the water country, and you get a much more added value there. Then we have these tailor-made trainings and advice where companies hire us, and that's of course much less, but they pay a higher price for the products because it's tailored to their needs. And all these things also feed into our master's program, where GIS is just one of the many topics that our students learn. And here's where the innovation needs to take place. And when it takes place, you can use it everywhere in these different products. And also don't be afraid then to use it as a business card in your open educational resources. And then the freemium model looks a bit like this. Don't look strictly at those prices. They're just indicative. And yeah, they also change all the time. And I really would like to make the QGIS for hydrological application online course much cheaper, so many more people can afford it. But here you see that with open courseware, you just get the materials and you don't get the other things. But yeah, you can follow it for free. And with online courses, you have some support. You can get the official QGIS certificate, you have a tutor and no other things. And then with short courses, you get the full package. And with tailor-made trainings, you can discuss everything that you want. And one of the added value things that many people want is a certificate. And my humble opinion about that is that there's some inflation happening with certificates, that I see projects now even issuing certificates for webinars. And I don't find that the right thing to do. I don't think that there are employers waiting for certificates for watching webinars. And I see it often in the chat that people who attend webinars ask, can I get a certificate? I also don't get certificates by watching passively Netflix movies. So I think for certificates, you need to really do something and have an assignment. And that comes at a cost where the assignments have to be automatically graded or by a tutor, and that we need to take care of registrations, etc. And a very nice thing to offer also as an institute like IHE Delft is the official QGIS certificate, like these happy people here have received after successfully completing the course. And the QGIS certificate is 20 euros per certificate, and we pay that for the participants, and 100% of that amount goes to the QGIS project and to further develop QGIS. So this is a very nice thing to do. So there are some challenges with open education. Employers want to see certificates, but with open education, you don't get generally certificates, but you could think of things like badges. But yeah, we have to think about how valuable that really is and what do employers look for. And we see that our cheaper educational products are still too expensive. We see there's a lack of scholarships for online courses. So still the Dutch NUFIC program offers scholarships for people to study at ITC or IHE Delft face-to-face classes. But even the COVID times did not make a huge change that we have a lot of scholarships for people following our online offerings. And I would really like to see a change on that. So only the happy few who have their connections and can get access to information and scholarships can follow our paid courses. But what I find really great after a year of COVID is that with all the free webinars and free courses that are offered, that I see that the intrinsic motivation of these people who don't generally have access to scholarships is much higher than the other ones who are sitting in for certificates. And I really like that. With the QGIS Hydro webinars with Kurt, we saw really at the end, at the GeoBears or the GeoGrinks or the GeoMate, people sharing what they learned from us, sharing the screen and showing the results. Okay, let's move a bit to the theory of open. I think it's important that you see that it's open education, open data, open source software. We all speak about the same type of open, being free, not only to use it, but also to reuse it and redistribute it. And it's always important to attribute, I think, to give credit to the people who make it. And the share alike means you put the same license if you derive something on it. Our open courseware offerings and of many others are not strictly the most open version that you see in this definition. We add a non-commercial license to it. So we find it perfectly okay if everybody uses the materials to learn, to educate yourself. But we don't find it particularly okay if other trainers use our materials to make big money. But of course, if you work for a university or a non-for-profit, feel free to use the stuff. And we like open because our core business is to share knowledge, and we do that in many different ways. So what are then open educational resources? These are resources that are freely accessible, and that doesn't necessarily have to be a complete course. It can also be a YouTube video, a document, a GitHub repository with some explanations, as long as it's freely available for everybody to use. And why do you want to do open educational resources? Well, it increases the visibility of your organization, but also you as an expert. So there's a personal outreach there, and there's the outreach of your organization. It can increase your impact because only with your course offerings you address a very little amount of people. But once you go to open educational resources, your impact will be much larger, and you get feedback from a wide audience to further improve your stuff. You get lots of posts on social media with great ideas. And you create or become part of a community. You target a different audience than you normally have. You can reuse the stuff that you've already developed, can be in any format. And for the users, it's cost saving. And often in projects, we see more and more it's a requirement from donors. So many reasons to do that. Now, there's a nice project. This is not limited to GIS, but there's the OER, Open Educational Resources, Worldmap.org, where, and we love maps, of course, where you see open educational resources in the world on a map, and you can look at them. The GIS Open Courseware platform is also on that map. So if you have open educational resources, you can register them on this site and be put on the map. But where do you put your open educational resources? So if you're an educator, it's very easy to start a YouTube channel and to post it there. You can use also Vimeo. It has some different licenses and some different ways of dealing with it. But also simply putting up a Google Doc or making a Jupyter notebook, which is linked to your GitHub. And then people can use Binder or Colab to launch it as an online course. See a lot of GitHub pages. So it doesn't really matter how you put it up, as long as it's easy to access by others. And there are lots of tools nowadays around where you can that you can use to put up your own course. But we felt that it needed a bit of more facilitations. Well, here you see, just before I go into that, here you see my YouTube channel. And what is nice there is that you can make a playlist, but you can also be in touch with the community. So I've posted about this event in the community section, and then all your followers can receive an update about your activities. And every time you upload a video, they get updated. So that's a great way to increase the use of your course materials, but also attract potential clients who might want to pay and get a certificate. But if you want to take it to another level, you really need an e-learning environment. And I will show that live in a bit. But we launched the GIS Open Courseware platform. It was an idea I had. And fortunately, my colleagues at IHE liked the idea. And we launched on October 6th last year a Moodle instance. Moodle is a completely 100% open source tool for educational resources, for an e-learning environment, basically. And we target here only trainings on open source GIS. So it's not limited to QGIS, and not limited to water. Any open source tool on which you have trainings can be shared here. And as you see, we have it already available in many languages. And you will see in a bit the testimonials or the motivations of the people who worked on this, including Jin, who's live in this session. And as we are speaking, there are also people translating now to Italian and Chinese and Arabic. So that goes quite well. So you can contribute to that platform in different ways by providing translations to existing courses, but also, and that doesn't happen much yet, but I reach out to you trainers if you want to have it hosted on Moodle. You can also contact me to have your new courses, to have courses there on the platform. What we do is quality control based on peer review. If there's a request from the market, we can co-organize paid courses with certificates, and we can host that with the platform. We deal with the outreach on social media, but you keep always your intellectual property, and the basic license that we put on it is CC BY NC, the non-commercial open license. Before I end this presentation, there's some good practice that I want to discuss. So be aware about the business model. How does it fit in your way of working? I think monitoring and evaluation is important for knowing your target groups. What do they like? What are popular topics? What are devices that they use? Do you need to have it on YouTube videos that millennials can watch on their phone, or do you want it more PC-based? If you work with registration and subscriptions, it's easier to get in touch with your audience, but it can also be a limitation. With GIS Open Courseware platform, you don't need to register. You can just click a course and start the course. You need to find a balance between your personal expert outreach and your institutional outreach. I see it as a symbiosis. The institute that I work for connects me to many other people that I don't connect with directly in my own environment as a geographer. And that's a win-win. So I think many GIS people now learned about what IHE Delft does. And I think many people from IHE Delft learned about what the QGIS community does. And I think that's a win-win, especially because I educate hundreds of young people every year now in open source. So you can build a community around your educational materials. I think that's important, and tap into existing communities. And the final word about healthy interaction with users. And here I also would like to address users. I think it's very similar to what I see on social media, for example, with posts from Niall Dawson and other contributors to QGIS, that sometimes users think that we get a lot of money to help you out all the time, and that you are expecting maybe too much of us on new features in QGIS. And also the tone of the questions can sometimes be a bit too demanding. And that's the same with courseware. So if I see my YouTube channel, sometimes it's next time video on, and then a very broad topic often, like, can you make a video on QGIS and climate change? Well, that's a big topic. That's not really something that I can think of that I could prepare easily. And probably what I make then is not really fitting with your expectations. Sometimes also users use it to get answers to their assignments at the university or school. And we don't help you really with that. What are really good questions to ask are more detailed ones, like how do I solve X, Y, Z in QGIS, or where can I find information, or I need some help with that, and try to also inspire me to make new videos on YouTube and to provide more courses. And if you really want consultancy, asking one question is okay, but some people just keep on asking questions. And unless there's some philanthropic organization sponsoring me that I don't need to work anymore for IHE Delft, I would be happy to sponsor everybody in the world, to help out everybody in the world full time. But unfortunately, we can't do that. So we need to find a balance, you as users, in what you can demand from us, but also us as educators, we can't keep ourselves full time busy with helping out users. So there's a balance there. There's a little shameless plug that I want to do here. So next week is Open Education Week, and we also launched together with UNESCO a new open course, completely free, including a certificate on programming for geospatial hydrological applications, which covers really from the basics, because I think that if you want to learn programming for GIS, you need to learn how to use the command line. In the past, it was normal that you knew that, but nowadays that is not so obvious to learn about paths. And then to learn GDAL from the command line and build it up to make scripts. We use PC Raster for map algebra and modeling, and we dive a bit into PyQGIS inside QGIS and outside QGIS through all kinds of Jupyter notebooks. So I invite you to watch the launch webinar on the 2nd of March and enroll to the course. We'll provide the links also later to you. And then it's always nice if you offer some free event to have Geo Beers, Geo Tea, Geo Matti, Geo Coffee, whatever, wherever you are and what time in the world, to also engage with your participants and discuss with them and get a feeling what they really want and what they enjoy. So the next part of this presentation, you can put your questions still in the chat, of course, is I want to show you some. No, I'm first going to give a tour. That was the plan. I need to stick a bit to the plan here. So this is the GIS Open Courseware platform. If you go to gisopencourseware.org, and you can find a lot of courses here, and here you see those translations that you can access. The interface can also be changed to other languages to help you. And here you see some more. Here is a list with video tutorials. And it's loading. It's a bit of overhead here because of Jitsi, but normally you see the thumbnails. But I will not focus on my stuff here, but what's more important also is there's more around than stuff that I offer. But here there's a nice list of YouTube channels that you can check out. And I just want to highlight a few here. So Claes Carlson, probably most of you know him, has really great videos. Let me just open it to show you. Really great videos to learn more about QGIS. and many different topics from beginner to advanced, and he really does it in a nice way. So and it's always good to subscribe to these channels to get updates when something new comes up. So that's one I can really recommend. Some people like to work with remote sensing and need expensive software, but Luca Congedo, he is a developer of the semi-automatic classification plugin in QGIS, and you can change QGIS to a complete remote sensing package to do all kinds of analysis and image classification. And he has great video tutorials, but also a website with a lot of step-by-step tutorials that you can follow, and really amazing what you can do with that. Then Burgess, also very active in posting a lot of videos, not only on QGIS, also on other GIS softwares you see here, Google Earth Engine and Python. So check this out. Also great explanations of what you can do with GIS and to learn a lot of new things. There are a few more, but you can figure them out yourself. And they're also here at the bottom of the list, some in other languages. So you can find that there in the section on video tutorials on the Open Courseware. But there are also tutorials made by others available. Let me go to the homepage. If you click through here, then there's here the Open Educational Resources, Other Resources section. And there are some great tutorials that you can just follow for free. A gentle introduction to GIS provided via QGIS. The QGIS official training manual is there. There's a QGIS training manual webpage. This is one I think maintained by Cartosa. I got this link from Tim. Let me just show it to you, just as an example. There's still another one. That's the official training material one. I think it's further down the list. Oh yeah, the worksheets, this one. That's the one that Tim sent me. That's a setting that I needed to change, but you can click through, and then there's lots of tutorials here that you can follow on basic things that you can do in QGIS, but also more advanced things I see here. So a lot of things to learn. Here's the blog to the semi-automatic classification plugin to learn about remote sensing. Really recommended is this one, QGIS tutorials and tips from Ujjwal Gandhi. Very complete, with lots of great stuff that you can learn and that I can also still learn. So also follow him on social media, Spatial Thoughts, and learn about great stuff. So a lot of things here. I invite you to explore this. There's a section here on free books. There's only one now in Spanish by Victor Olaya, which gives quite a complete introduction to GIS, and some links to podcasts to also learn more. So if you are a provider of open educational resources, feel free to contact me, and I can put you on the list after a little review. And then, yeah, the more we have to share, the better. So I would like to go now to some short videos of people who have contributed to this platform to learn about their motivation. And the first one I'm going to show, so stop sharing the screen, I will start the video. Stop sharing, yes. The first one is from Veronica Tutuloa, a very active QGIS Mexico member. And I will start a YouTube video that she has given me. And here we go.
QGIS. Hola a todos y todas. Un afectuoso saludo a la comunidad QGIS. Por invitación del Dr. Hanss, con quien colaboro en la traducción de contenidos del inglés al español del sitio Open GIS Courseware, les comentaré acerca de mis motivaciones con esta iniciativa. Iniciaré comentando que México es un país multicultural, con 3 raíces culturales, la europea, la indígena y la africana. Actualmente existen comunidades que continúan con ciertas prácticas de colaboración en general, como el tequio, que es el intercambio de trabajo, y el trueque, que es el intercambio de objetos, de cosas. Además de que estas comunidades tienen un profundo respeto hacia la madre tierra. Por ejemplo, esto podemos verlo en las tradiciones de estados como Puebla, Oaxaca, Yucatán, entre otros. ¿Por qué apoyo iniciativas como GIS Open Courseware? Pues porque inicialmente pertenezco a una cultura del bien común que es compatible con principios que sigue el software libre. Algunos de ellos como la filosofía de la colaboración, el acceso abierto, el bien común, que ello permite el desarrollo de tecnologías adaptables a las circunstancias de cada comunidad. Existen otros modelos compatibles, por ejemplo, el diseño abierto, la ciencia abierta, el acceso abierto, la educación abierta, donde se encuentra la iniciativa de GIS Open Courseware, que se encuentra enmarcada dentro de la educación abierta. La cultura abierta, así lo mencionan algunos autores como Pensado y Signorini, entre otros principios y valores combinados con el tema de la sustentabilidad, pues puedo mencionar a la ética, la eficiencia, el empoderamiento social que reduce las brechas de desigualdad, la pluriculturalidad, la transparencia, la gobernanza democrática, la neutralidad de Internet, la independencia tecnológica, el beneficio común y, por supuesto, el respeto a la naturaleza, entre otros. Considero que este sitio es importante en materia de herramientas de software libre geoespacial aplicado a estudios en recursos hídricos, en especial en América Latina, porque son pocas las iniciativas que tienen como base de funcionamiento las sinergias de los principios que ya les he mencionado. Un ejemplo lo tenemos en Perú con Idahatari. Además, soy entusiasta del software libre geoespacial a través del grupo de usuarios de QGIS México, en donde pues realizamos actividades de difusión. A ello les invito que por favor consulten el sitio del grupo, www.qgis.mx. Y por último, cuando empecé mis estudios de geomática en la UNAM, pues me enamoré de los temas hídricos. El estudio del agua tiene diferentes aristas, en donde existe todo un diálogo de saberes, porque pues cubren temas pues tanto sociales, tecnológicos, ambientales, económicos, culturales, entre otros. Y pues este ha sido otro motivo de apoyo. Pues bueno, agradezco su atención y la invitación a los organizadores. Apapachos a todos y todas. Gracias y Tlazokamati.
So that was very nice from Veronica. I will start the next video, which is from Herminio Sabino from Brazil. And let's see what he has for us.
Olá pessoal, meu nome é Hermínio Sabino, estou falando com vocês do Brasil. Sou gestor ambiental e atualmente faço pós-graduação em Ciências Climáticas na Universidade Federal do Rio Grande do Norte. Trabalho com software livre desde 2012, quando trabalhei no órgão ambiental na cidade onde morava. E tínhamos que auxiliar o setor de licenciamento ambiental. Porém, não havia recursos para a compra de softwares proprietários. Foi então que eu conheci o QGIS, né? Naquela época, ainda havia pouco material disponível, principalmente em português. Por isso, os grupos de discussão e tutoriais disponíveis na internet foram muito importantes. Então eu comecei a estudar a ferramenta e quando estava no mestrado, o meu orientador sugeriu criar vídeos para ajudar os alunos de graduação. E então comecei a ajudar os alunos com dicas e tutoriais para resolver os problemas propostos em sala de aula. Criei um canal no YouTube com o objetivo de ajudar os usuários iniciantes e retribuir a ajuda que recebi quando estava iniciando no universo dos softwares livres, né? Mais especificamente no QGIS. Por morar no Brasil e a maioria dos materiais disponíveis está na língua inglesa, alguns pesquisadores não têm acesso a muitos materiais e oportunidades. Então eu decidi publicar os vídeos e tentar, na medida do possível, participar de algumas das discussões sobre o melhoramento dos softwares livres. E num ano tão atípico como 2020, e por estar trabalhando com modelagem hidrológica, resolvi ajudar um pouco mais e em conversa com o professor Hanss, comecei a tradução para o português do material QGIS para aplicações hidrológicas. E eu acredito que essa é a melhor maneira para as pessoas desfrutarem das melhores ferramentas e materiais. Portanto, eventos como este são muito importantes para que mais pessoas possam discutir, contribuir e aprender sobre o que acontece e como você pode usar os softwares livres em suas atividades. Acredito que um bom pesquisador deva ser um bom divulgador de seu trabalho e tornar grande parte da tecnologia acessível. Então, esta é minha grande motivação para divulgar e colaborar com os softwares livres. Quero garantir que qualquer aluno, pesquisador, tenha condições de desenvolver suas atividades com o menor custo possível e com a melhor qualidade. E por fim, eu quero agradecer pelo convite para compartilhar minha experiência aqui com vocês e que cada um de vocês saiam daqui com novas ideias, bons projetos e o mais importante, coloque-os em prática. Por fim, eu quero deixar uma frase para vocês, que um bom pesquisador não é o que mais sabe, mas aquele que transmite os seus conhecimentos. Fiquem bem e até mais.
So that was great to hear also the motivation of Herminio with some great messages. The last one that I want to show is from Walid Moulahum from Algeria. It's a bit longer one. If it takes a bit too long, I might cut it off and then, because I still want some time also to talk to Jin and to take some questions from the audience, but let's just start it a bit and we'll share the links later. And Walid, he made this vlog style video from his holiday address after a lot of hard work that he did also for GIS.
Hi everyone, my name is Walid and I am a water resources specialist and GIS specialist. I'm making this video for you from an area called Saraidi in Annaba in the northeastern part of Algeria. It's a very nice undisturbed landscape of this part of the country. I'm making this video to speak about three main points. So the first one is what does open source mean to me? The second one is why do I think open source is good for Algeria and what are my motivations to keep working on it? And the third point is what am I doing right now to contribute to the open source community? All right, so I started using GIS when I was in 2000, when I was doing my bachelor's degree in 2013 in the United States. Back then I had absolutely no idea what open source was or even what proprietary software was. So I just kept using whatever was given to me back then, which is the obvious choice of Estrie's ArcGIS. I finished my bachelor's degree in the United States and then I traveled back to Algeria. When I went back, I wanted to start a freelancing business on the side, but I was hit by the surprise that I wasn't able to use the software that was given, that I thought was free, because I didn't have to worry about a license when I was at the University of Western Washington University. So I started, I tried to find a solution and I found that there are cracked versions that you can use. And I kept using that. It's just that the problem was that I wasn't able to continue on or do any freelancing because what I was doing was illegal and I couldn't prove that I have a license, so I wasn't able to issue any work that was legally recognized. So for those 3 years I was sinning. I kept on sinning with the cracked versions. Until 2016, when I traveled to the Netherlands, to UNESCO IHE, and when I started a master's degree in groundwater resources and global change, I met Hanss van der Kwast, who is a very famous figure in the QGIS community. And I remember how he was challenging us during the lectures to find things that QGIS is unable to do that ArcGIS is. And I found that at the beginning very arrogant, but of course my challenging side went on to kind of prove him wrong. And I find it very hard to prove. So I started to learn more about the open source concept, and I was immediately hooked and immediately seduced by it, because it appeals to, because as a concept it gathers the community effort for the greater good of the community, and that just appealed to my socialist and humanitarian side. And since then I've been promoting open source wherever I go, especially now that I'm in Algeria. So Algeria is undergoing very rough socio-economical challenges that is making it lag in the development of its digital infrastructure. The tendency that exists is to simply...
I'm going to stop the video here, and I'll post the links so you can get further from this cliffhanger and to see what else is motivating Walid, and for sure do that. But we also need a bit of more time for talking to Jin. And Jin, are you with us? And to learn about his motivation, because Jin is live with us.
Yeah, hello. Yeah.
Hi, Jin. Jin, can you introduce yourself a little bit?
Yes, my name is Jin Igarashi from Japan, and I am software developer for GIS. Yeah, and actually, I'm involved in GIS software development since 2009, when I entered ICT company in Japan. Yeah. But since 2014, I went to Kenya and working in water utilities and developed some GIS applications with my colleagues, yeah, as volunteer, yeah. And I worked in Kenya until 2016. Then I became interested in water management, yeah, and I started to work with JICA, is Japan International Cooperation Agency, and I was assigned a water project in Rwanda, yeah, as GIS specialist until 2019, yeah. And since last year, I came back to GIS software development work, yeah, and since last year, I'm mainly involved the vector tiles development, yeah, and working with some vector tile development with United Nations Vector Tile Toolkit team, yeah. Apart from that, my work, yeah, I also contributing some translations of QGIS applications like QField or input, yeah, to Japanese language, yeah. And also last year, I started Mr. Hanss training material on GIS Open Courseware to Japanese language, yeah. Yeah.
So Jin, thanks for that introduction. So what motivates you to contribute to translations of tools and translations of courses?
Yes. Yeah. Firstly, maybe my biggest motivation of translations is maybe to introduce a great tool to Japanese community, yeah, because I think language is the biggest problem for Japanese language mostly. Yeah, a lot of people can't understand foreign language in Japan. Yeah, and if maybe I can translate some software like QGIS or maybe some mobile application like Q-Field input. Yeah, it's really helpful for them. Yeah, and maybe and the next second biggest motivation, is also maybe I can gain my knowledge from the translation. Yeah, because I can't translate without understanding deeply. Yeah, so even I learned a lot of things from
Can you still hear us? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, you're back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds like a good motivation. I have a question for you. Is dropping out with the internet? Maybe. I was asking you, Jin, is QGIS popular in Japan? Is it popular in Japan?
Yes, I think QGIS is very popular in Japan. Yeah, and Japan's QGIS community is quite large. Yeah.
And you have a user group also in Japan, I understand, a QGIS user group.
Yeah, there are some QGIS user group. Yeah, and every year there is Hosfoji local event in Japan, and also there is very large QGIS community in Facebook channel. Yeah.
Okay, your line seems a bit breaking, but I think we can continue. Maybe Chris, are there any questions from the chat that we can discuss here in the remaining time?
There are a few questions. Some of the questions are there any rules for the minimum length or the content of the courses, or can it be a collection of tutorials about the same subject? This is to do with QGIS.
Yeah, well, for open educational resources, it really doesn't matter. It can be one little tutorial on something or a video clip. As soon as you want to call it a course, it needs to have a bit more body, but there are no strict rules for that. And I think that in the Open Courseware platform, we can host anything from a short tutorial to a complete course.
Okay, all right. And then also the term like non-commercial, does it not ban or use, does it not ban use paid university courses?
No, not really. So, well, students by themselves can, of course, use these materials. But if you're a lecturer, and I was contacted by some lecturers in universities if they could use my materials. And I say, yeah, but universities are generally non-for-profit. So perfectly okay. It doesn't violate the license. But there are some borderline cases, of course, when consultants for big organizations start using my materials to teach in all kinds of countries where I could also teach. And, I need to write timesheets for IHE, and I need to have projects to survive there, and can't do always my hobbies. So then we have a bit of a conflict of interest. But, with licenses, it's always hard to enforce. It's hard to find where exactly the border is, and the step to the judge is also a very big, expensive step that I will probably never do. So I just trust that people use it in the correct way and respect the people who made things and their reasons for providing things for free.
And then one last question. Someone saw on Courseware an ArcGIS course on geocoding. Are there any similar Delft courses on this and to do with researching water?
Well, geocoding, I'm not sure. Maybe Tim knows if there are some resources on that. I haven't seen much on that on my stuff. Tim, are you still with us?
Not thinking of anything offhand. I'd be hitting Google by now, yeah.
Yeah. Probably there are. I would say maybe Ujjwal Gandhi has some nice stuff on that. That would be the first place to check it, I think, on his nice site. And if not, ask around, and we'll see if there's something that can help you with what you're exactly looking for. And otherwise, we need to develop it if we are motivated enough by your question.
All right, I think
that's just about all we have time for. I think thank you so much, Hanss, for giving such an amazing presentation, giving us all the links that we need. There were a lot of comments on why there's so much peanut butter, which amused me.
Yeah.
But it's amazing to see what a global phenomenon this is and what a great community it is, and how diverse the people contributing to this project are. So thank you so much for that and giving us a taste of what we need to know as beginners and as seasoned users of QGIS.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Do please join us for our next session. That'll be starting in about 5 minutes.
Thanks, Jin.
Yeah, thank you for today's session. Yeah.